There is a weapon that has been deployed repeatedly from inside the Trump orbit, and by now, after watching it misfire again and again, it is becoming impossible to take seriously. That weapon is the billion-dollar legal threat. Not an actual lawsuit, not a court filing, not a legal argument that has to survive the scrutiny of a judge, just a letter. A very expensive-looking letter from a very expensive-sounding attorney, threatening financial annihilation so total, so overwhelming, that whoever receives it is supposed to immediately crumble, retract, apologize, and disappear. It worked on some people. The Daily Beast pulled their story. HarperCollins publishers retracted passages from a book. Democratic strategist James Carville quietly removed a podcast episode that had questioned Melania Trump's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The playbook seemed to be working perfectly, and then it met two people who simply refused to play along. One was a veteran journalist named Michael Wolff, who had spent years reporting on the most powerful family in America. The other was Hunter Biden, a man who, whatever his other controversies, looked at a billion-dollar threat from the First Lady of the United States and said, in his own precise and unforgettable words, exactly what he thought of it. And what followed was not a legal victory for Melania Trump. What followed was one of the most public and comprehensive humiliations that any First Lady has suffered in living memory. To understand why this story matters so much, you have to understand exactly what the billion-dollar threat is and why it was designed to work. When Melania Trump's attorney, Alejandro Brito, sends one of these letters, he is not necessarily expecting to win in court. The strategy is psychological. The strategy is economic. When you threaten someone with over $1 billion in damages, you are not really saying you will win that case. You are saying that even if you lose, the process of defending against $1 billion lawsuit will cost the target so much in legal fees, so much in time, so much in reputational exposure, so much in personal stress, that the rational choice is to simply give in and make it stop. It is the legal equivalent of pulling up in a tank to a neighborhood dispute. You do not have to fire the tank. The presence of the tank is the message, and the message is, the cost of standing your ground is too high. Just walk away. This is the exact same letter, from the exact same attorney, making the exact same billion-dollar threat that was sent to Michael Wolff in the weeks before this all exploded publicly. Brito's firm has become a kind of specialized instrument in Melania Trump's legal arsenal, a delivery mechanism for maximum financial intimidation. And the choice of the same attorney, the same dollar figure, the same legal language across multiple targets tells you something important. This is not organic legal strategy responding to specific facts. This is a template, a reusable weapon, something that gets pulled off the shelf whenever someone says something about Melania Trump and Jeffrey Epstein that her team wants silenced. The fact that it is the same playbook, deployed against multiple different targets in rapid succession, is not a sign of legal strength. It is a sign that there is a factory producing these threats, and the factory has one product. Now, the specific target in August of 2025 was Hunter Biden, and the trigger was a YouTube interview. In early August of that year, Hunter Biden sat down with independent journalist Andrew Callahan on his Channel 5 program for what became a wide-ranging, explosive conversation. During that interview, Hunter Biden made a specific claim. He said that Jeffrey Epstein had introduced Melania to Donald Trump. He attributed this claim directly to Michael Wolff's reporting, noting that Wolff had conducted extensive recorded interviews with Epstein over a period of years. He also noted that reporting along similar lines had appeared as far back as 2019 in the New York Times, citing journalists Annie Carney and Maggie Haberman, writing that sources had said Epstein claimed to have made the introduction. Hunter Biden was not inventing a new allegation. He was amplifying an existing one, sourcing it to a named journalist with documented interviews, and doing so in a media interview that was posted publicly on YouTube, where it gathered over 1 million views. Melania's team responded within days. The letter that Brito sent to Hunter Biden and his attorney Abby Lowell on August 6, 2025, was a document of almost theatrical indignation. It demanded that Biden immediately retract his statements, issue a formal apology, and remove the video from YouTube. It described his comments as false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory. It said his statements had been widely disseminated and had caused the First Lady to suffer overwhelming financial and reputational harm, and it set a deadline of August 7th, one single day, for Hunter Biden to comply or face legal action for over $1 billion in damages. One day, not 1 week, one day. The aggressive timeline is itself revealing. It is designed to create panic. It is designed to make the recipient feel that the clock is already running out, that the tank is already at the gate, that the only escape is immediate capitulation, and when the deadline passed without Hunter Biden complying, Melania's team announced that he had been given notice and that legal action remained on the table. Here is what actually happened next. Hunter Biden did not retract. Hunter Biden did not apologize. Hunter Biden did not remove the video. Instead, he sat down with Andrew Callahan for a follow-up interview and delivered a response that was heard and shared across every corner of the internet. Asked whether he would be issuing an apology to Melania Trump, Hunter Biden said with complete composure and zero hesitation, "Fuck that. That's not going to happen." Those 5 words demolish the entire architecture of the billion-dollar threat in a way that no legal argument could have, because the threat only works if the target is afraid. The moment the target publicly, emphatically, and memorably declares that they are not afraid, the threat does not just fail, it transforms into evidence of the threatening party's weakness. Every person who watched Hunter Biden say those words understood instinctively that a man facing a genuine, credible, winnable lawsuit does not respond that way. You respond that way when you believe the person threatening you does not have a real case, and Hunter Biden made clear he believed exactly that. He went further. In the same interview, Hunter Biden said he thought President Trump and Melania Trump were, in his words, bullies, people who believed the threat was going to scare him. He said he welcomed the possibility of a deposition. He said he would be happy to provide them a platform to clarify their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein under oath. Think carefully about what he was saying. He was saying, "Please sue me." He was saying, "I want to sit across from you in a deposition room and ask you questions about Jeffrey Epstein under oath." This is the same thing Michael Wolff had said. This is the same thing Wolff had written on social media, that he would love nothing more than to have Donald and Melania Trump deposed about their relationship with Epstein. The convergence of these two responses, Wolff's and Hunter's, is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. Both men understood the same thing. The deposition is what Melania Trump is actually afraid of, and the billion-dollar threat is the mechanism she is using to make sure that deposition never happens. And yet Melania Trump never sued Hunter Biden. Never. The deadline passed. The follow-up interview aired. The video remained on YouTube with over 1 million views. Andrew Callahan's production company refused to pull it and issued a statement that cut straight to the heart of the matter. If those statements are false, take it up with Michael Wolff, who is ironically not being sued. That final observation from Callahan is one of the most quietly devastating sentences in this entire saga. Michael Wolff is the original source. Wolff is the journalist who conducted the interviews with Epstein. Wolff is the one who made this claim publicly and repeatedly. Hunter Biden was simply repeating what Wolff had reported. And yet the person Melania's team went after was not Wolff. It was Hunter Biden. It was a political target. It was the son of the political family that the Trump administration had been battling for years. The choice of who to threaten reveals the true motivation. This was not about defamation law. This was about politics. It was about using legal machinery as a political weapon. But here is where the story takes the most extraordinary turn. The turn that Melania Trump's team clearly never anticipated when they chose to send that first letter to Michael Wolff. Wolff did not fold like the Daily Beast. He did not quietly remove his content like James Carville. He did not apologize like HarperCollins. Michael Wolff looked at the billion-dollar threat, understood immediately what it was, and did something that transformed the entire power dynamic of this situation. He sued her back. In October of 2025, within days of receiving the legal threat, Wolff filed a lawsuit against Melania Trump in New York Supreme Court, invoking New York's anti-SLAPP statute. The law specifically designed to protect journalists and speakers from exactly this kind of intimidation litigation. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. The name of the law is its own verdict on what Melania's team had been doing, and by filing that lawsuit, Wolff did something extraordinary. He forced Melania Trump into the position of defendant. The woman who had been deploying billion-dollar threats against journalists was suddenly the one who had to respond to a court filing. The tank had turned around and was pointing at the person who had been driving it. This is the moment Melania Trump's legal team appears to have genuinely panicked. Because everything that followed, the 10 weeks of silence after Wolff filed, the last-minute jurisdiction maneuver in December 2025, the venue fight to move the case from New York to federal court, the service dispute over whether papers handed to a Trump Tower doorman constituted valid service, all of it looks like a legal team scrambling to delay a case they are not confident they can win on the merits. Wolff described the jurisdiction move himself on his public Substack, calling it a signature Trump delaying tactic. He was not being polemical. He was being accurate. You do not fight desperately to move a case out of a jurisdiction with strong anti-SLAPP protections because you believe you have a strong case. You do it because you know that if the case proceeds in New York, the anti-SLAPP mechanism could force you to pay your opponent's legal fees if you lose. You do it because the discovery process, the depositions, the document requests, the sworn testimony, is what you are truly trying to avoid. Wolff also did something else that Melania's team had no answer for. He made this a public fight. He launched a fundraising campaign and raised nearly $800,000 from over 15,000 individual supporters who looked at this situation, a first lady threatening a journalist with $1 billion lawsuit over his reporting on Epstein, and decided it was worth funding the resistance. Melania's attorneys actually tried to use this fundraising against Wolff in legal filings, arguing that his campaign showed the lawsuit was a publicity stunt. It was a remarkably weak argument, and the fact that it was deployed at all tells you that her legal team was searching for ammunition wherever they could find it. Raising money to fight someone with unlimited resources is not evidence of dishonesty. It is evidence that the public has made a judgment about who deserves to win this fight. Now let us come to April 9, 2026, a day that will be analyzed and discussed for years as a masterclass in how not to manage a public relations crisis. On that day, Melania Trump did something that shocked her own White House. She walked into the grand foyer, stood in front of cameras, and delivered a 6-minute prepared statement about Jeffrey Epstein. She said the lies linking her to Epstein needed to end that day. She said Epstein did not introduce her to Donald Trump. She said she first met Epstein in the year 2000 at an event she attended with Donald Trump. She said she had never had any relationship with Epstein or his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. She said the warm email she had sent Maxwell in 2002, in which she signed off "Love Melania," and Maxwell responded calling her "Sweet Pea," was nothing more than casual correspondence, a trivial note. And then she walked away without taking a single question. The immediate reaction inside the White House was, according to reporting from CNN, one of stunned surprise. Officials had started to move on from the Epstein story. The Iran situation had been consuming the news cycle. The Epstein saga that had plagued the first year of Trump's second term appeared to finally be fading, and then the First Lady, driven by what CNN described as a months-long fixation on press coverage about her and Epstein, walked out and dragged the entire story back into the center of the national conversation. Even Donald Trump said he did not know what she planned to say ahead of time. He told the New York Times the following day that he knew she had wanted to address Epstein at some point, but confirmed he had not known what she would say. He declined to watch her remarks in real time. The backfire was immediate and comprehensive. By making a public statement about the exact subject matter of the ongoing Wolff lawsuit without taking questions, Melania Trump raised more questions than she answered. Every news organization that had been passively watching the Wolff case suddenly had a front-page story. Every commentator who had been tracking the legal saga had fresh material. The Love Melania email to Maxwell, which Democrats on the House Oversight Committee had surfaced in February, was back in every headline. The photos of Melania, Donald Trump, Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell together at Mar-a-Lago in February 2000 circulated again across every social media platform. And critically, by insisting that the lies needed to end that day, Melania Trump reminded every single person watching that those lies, or those claims depending on your perspective, were still very much alive, still very much unresolved in court, and still being actively pressed by Michael Wolff in an ongoing federal lawsuit. One of the most revealing details from the press conference was what Melania Trump called for at its conclusion. She called on Congress to give Epstein survivors a public hearing, to let each woman testify under oath in front of Congress and have her story entered into the congressional record. This was a stunning request because it directly contradicted her own husband's months-long insistence that the public and the media should move on from the Epstein story. The First Lady was not moving on. She was calling for more investigation, more testimony, more public scrutiny of the Epstein network, a network that her own husband had been closely associated with for 15 years, as Trump himself had said on the record in 2002. House Oversight Chairman James Comer committed to hold hearings the following day. Democrats on the committee said they agreed. In trying to draw a line under the Epstein story, Melania Trump had instead handed both parties in Congress a reason to dig deeper into it. And through all of this, through the Hunter Biden humiliation, through the press conference backfire, through the Wolff lawsuit grinding forward in federal court, Michael Wolff has not moved a single inch. He has not retracted. He has not modified his claims. He has not expressed any doubt about what he reported. He has Epstein's words on tape. He conducted those interviews. He was in that world. He is not a blogger speculating from a distance. He is the journalist who sat across from Jeffrey Epstein and recorded what Epstein said about the people in his orbit. And Hunter Biden, for his part, has also not retracted. The Channel 5 video is still on YouTube. The million-plus views are still there. The "fuck that" response is still part of the permanent record of this story. What you are watching when you step back and look at this entire arc from the first billion-dollar threat to the April press conference is the progressive failure of a strategy that was built on the assumption that everyone could be scared into silence. Some people were scared. The Daily Beast was scared. HarperCollins was scared. Carville was scared. But the people who mattered most, the people with the actual evidence, the actual reporting, The actual willingness to go to court and say what they know under oath. Those people were not scared. And every time the billion-dollar threat failed to produce the silence it was designed to produce, it exposed more of the underlying vulnerability it was trying to protect. The threat itself became the story. The pattern of threats became the story. And now, with a federal lawsuit active, with deposition requests on the table, with a judge sitting on motions in a case that Wolff has vowed to fight to its conclusion, the silence that Melania Trump's legal machine has been trying to purchase is further away than ever. The billion-dollar weapon did not just backfire, it invited the very scrutiny it was designed to prevent, and the two men who refused to be intimidated by it, one a veteran journalist with tapes of Jeffrey Epstein, the other a former first son who had nothing left to lose, made sure that the story of Melania Trump, Michael Wolff, and Jeffrey Epstein is not going away quietly. It is going instead to court, and in court, unlike in press conferences, there are no prepared statements, there are no 6-minute monologues delivered without questions, and there is no walking away before the hard questions get asked. In court, you answer.